Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about squat form. I'll give you some tips and tricks to perform a squat in a healthy manner. So first I like to talk about stance. Everyone's stance is going to be different, everyone's hips are different, everyone's squat's going to look different. So somewhere around shoulder width is where you want your feet to land. I want you to feel comfortable with playing around with a little bit wider stance, a little bit more narrow stance depending on what's comfortable for you. Foot placement. There's two ways you can either place your feet in a squat. You could have your toes pointing straight forward. Some people that's totally comfortable. Other people like to turn the toes out just slightly. And that is going to open up the hips just a little bit more and allow your knees to track your toes a little bit more comfortable when you are squatting. Play around with both of those and see what works best for you. Distribution of weight. So you do want to think about where that weight is being placed in your foot. You want to even balance through the toe, the midfoot, and the heel. You don't want too much of your weight in the toes because that's going to push you forward. And if you have weight on your back, then you're going to go forward with that weight. You don't want too much weight to be in the heels because then that's going to push you backwards. So a nice even balance of weight throughout the foot. Next is hips. So the squat is a hip dominant movement. You do want the hips to carry the weight. A lot of the time I'll see people beginning a squat with their knees. You don't want that because if you have weight on your back or even just your body weight, which is a lot of force, is going to put all that force onto your knee joints, and you want your hips to take that weight rather than your knees. These are big muscles here, the glutes, the quads, and the hamstrings, so you do want those to take over for those knees. You don't want the knees to take the brunt of the force. So since it is a hip dominant movement, that's where you'll begin the movement. You want to push those hips back slightly and then descend down and come back up. As you're descending down, you want to fill out or think about what feels good, what doesn't, what feels right, what could be adjusted. If that means widening up your stance, then do so. If that means a more narrow stance, then do that. So that's a good time to think about where my weight is placed in the feet. Do I need to adjust? And push back up. So like I said, first movement is pushing those hips slightly back, and you're gonna sit back like you're sitting into a chair, okay? So push those hips back and descend down. Another thing to think about when you're squatting, keep those knees nice and wide. You don't want the knees caving in. That'll cause issues later on. You want to keep those knees nice and wide as you're coming up and down. Let's perform one more. Squat down. Hands, you can do whatever you want with them. Have them on your hips. Squat down, descend down nicely. It's okay if the knees come slightly in front of the toes, just as long as most of that weight is being carried in the hips. You don't want all of your weight to be in your toes. If you're going forward, too much weight. You also always want those heels to stay on the ground as you're coming down and up. If you descend down and you notice that at a certain point, those heels are coming up, stay in that range until you get more flexible, until you loosen up those hips or build more strength, and revisit that as you get more comfortable. And if you're able to keep those heels down, you can start going into a deeper depth. So the chair, this is a nice tool. You could use a chair, you could use a bench, you could use your bed, your couch, whatever you have. This is just a nice tool to help you focus on pulling those hips back and sitting down, because that's what a squat is. You're really sitting down. So this is a nice tool to have. It really helps you get those hips back. You descend down, quick tap, or you could sit all the way down and push back up. So push those hips back as if a rubber band is pulling you down diagonally, and come back up. Another thing to think about is you want to achieve full hip extension as you come up. So you want to return those hips underneath the shoulders, okay? You don't need to push the hips too far forward. That'll cause hyperextension in the back. You just want full extension in the hips, so the hips return underneath the shoulder. So coming down, coming back up here. Hips underneath the shoulder, full extension. Another thing with the chair, if you're not comfortable with the squat yet, or you don't yet have the leg strength to perform a squat freely like this is awesome because it'll catch you. You don't have to worry about falling. The ways you could work up to do a freestanding squat, take your time, descend down as slow as you can for as long as you can. When you need to give up, give up. And then you can use your hands to push yourself back up, or you could practice getting back up yourself. That's a nice way to work yourself up to a freestanding squat. I hope this video helped. Check out our other demos, and happy squatting.